Lyrical Legacy, the life and story of Anthony Jones, also known by some of you in the streets as Wolf. That being said, because the name was taken out of its original context, we are going to have an opportunity in a three-part docuseries to explore the life and legacy of Anthony Jones in a way that has never been thought of before. It will be one where we dispel a lot of myths, where we are not going to allow people like a April Agee of Mississippi to think that she can come onto our timeline and dictate to us what we should or should not do, who and what we know, and how much we know. Our documentary is like any of our other work. It is going to be professionally geared through a journalistic lens, one of ethics and true responsibility, but more importantly, accountability. It will cover in three parts, three episodes, his entire life and death. It will dispel a lot of the rumors and myths associated with his life. It will cover the myth, the mystery, the man, and the music, and his attachment to not simply the hip hop community, but the music community as a whole. As many of us are observing the case of Dwayne Keith Davis, aka Kiffy D, in the murder trial of Tupac Shakur, a lot of people are now revisiting things that transpired during the 1990s. But there is one name that continues to come up, maybe two or three: Sean Combs, Suge Knight, Eric Von Zip Martin of Manhattan, Harlem, New York, and we will have an opportunity to explore those directly and indirectly. We will also dispel a lot of the rumors and misrepresentations of material facts that plagued his life, that also defined his death, respectfully. And so I wanted to have an opportunity to talk about why we are interested in him, and it's twofold. You might say, well, Lisa, as a sports journalist, why him? Because you forget we do sports and culture. And so through the lens of sports and culture, we're able to examine the culture, but we're also able to examine his association with sports and athleticism and the likes of the one and only Allen Iverson. And it was in the 2016 Hall of Fame speech that Allen Iverson dropped Anthony Wolf Jones' name at the 13.12 minute section of his speech, if you wanted it played back. And so people began to inquire, well, who is he? And why did Allen Iverson talk about him? And we're going to talk about that. A lot of people know Ra. That was Allen Iverson's bestie, his best friend. Ra is from the Bronx, New York, who also knew Anthony Jones, a native of the Bronx, New York, born in Harlem, New York. And so again, we'll have the opportunity to explore these issues, but lyrically. So why lyrical legacy? The only other person in the hip hop community to be associated with a quote unquote lyrical legacy was a project that was started for Daddy King. I don't know if it ever went to full fruition, but we have been working on lyrical legacy for some time. So the lyrical is this associated with the music industry, legacy ultimately being their lives. But the term lyrical legacy has associations with other projects as well. Ours is unique because ours also uses something that none of the others use: music. And so it's different. And it is not going to be a sanitized version of his life. It is raw, real, and relevant, and through his association with Phil to Rim. And, that's our tagline: raw, real, and relevant. And that is why his story is important. It is particularly important in timing. This is a project we started before the trial. And if you've been following that, you would see it online. And so it's interesting that it will align itself with the trial, align itself with truths. His life has been defined as the quote unquote big bad wolf from the very day that he was murdered, November 11th, 2003, in Atlanta. Media immediately defined him as the big bad wolf. It was part of a major political and a public relations campaign. And we're going to dive deep into that and discuss that. Why is that important today? Because he was the founder, the funder, and also known as a fixer and a friend, never a foe, to Sean Combs. But we're going to discuss what Sean Combs did to him and how Sean Combs brought in individuals that he knew and or had reason to know would align themselves with Anthony Jones in a very hostile and negative way. We have been fortunate to have not simply a documentary predicated on hearsay, because we don't deal with hearsay. We are fact finders, deep dives, and that is what we're doing. And so for those who are inquiring, why is it historically necessary? It is. There have been tens of thousands of people that tune in to all these different blogs talking about Anthony Jones, including but not limited to Gene Dill. And we know for certain and with certainty the relationship Anthony Jones really had with him and King Tut, who was a former head of security. And we'll leave it at that for now. We would be able to listen to a lot of the people who could claim Anthony said this and Anthony said that, but we know what we know. A lot of you have heard the name Sherry Jefferson associated with Anthony Jones, and you should. That's a day one. To the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month. She knows what she's talking about. Trust that. And so it's an opportunity to find out who was the man in front of the music. We often talk about behind the music. He was in front of the music. He was in front of the music and also behind the music. You hear the testimony that is coming up in the Keffe D trial for his murder of Tupac Shakur, or the alleged association with the murder. And we hear a lot of names being dropped. But let's be mindful of the names you won't hear and why. And so I paused on that. Lyrical legacy. Like, what are you all going to be doing about Ron Ball the Allen Iverson way, tying it all together? That's what we're going to be doing. You will see exactly how it all ties in together. Trust the process. Isn't that what the 76ers tagline is? Trust the process. Well, and the hashtag also, trust the process, because the process will align itself accordingly. And it will begin to develop and explain everything historically in a way that has never been done. Now, I'm going to say this. We were the first to develop and state that we were going to do an Allen Iverson documentary post 2015. When Allen Iverson, they did Iverson, and that was Beatty. Zadie Beatty. She was the person on the front line for that. It was her conceptualization. She was producer, executive producer, but then she brought in Antonio. And when she brought Antonio in to assist in directing, it was where he was able to take over the entire conceptualization and project that will ultimately allow him to end up doing Last Dance, Michael Jordan. But it was her synopsis, her log lines that was used. It was the catalyst. Similarly situated or argued respectfully is what happened with the Allen Iverson project. We put our synopsis out there, and then you had 1-9 and Steph Curry and Shaquille O'Neal come with the NBA and say, then we're going to do a sanitize. But Allen Iverson was an intricate part of that as well. And I know for him, he's thinking, well, I want to be able to control and have creative control. We didn't say he could not, but ours was not going to be a sanitized version of what we knew his life to be then or now. And it was not going to be corporately sanctioned or sponsored in a way that we cannot control the narrative. I mean, the same thing has happened now with Children of Blood and Bones, where you have Tommy, arguing about who's playing the lead role when she was the person saying she wanted Zendaya, a light-skinned black girl, biracial, to play the role of a dark-skinned West African whose storyline the Children of Blood and Bones is based on. So then you're bringing in these biracial roots and you're allowing them to define the narrative. And now you want to pretend, having been compensated 7 figures for the story through Paramount, now you want to say you all shouldn't watch it. Well, we're not going to purchase or sponsor or support any of your products either, Tony. Why would we do that? You don't get to play the black community like that. You don't get to come in and write a book, a trilogy, and then expect us to now continue to support you but go against Paramount. No. You wanted that. And in lieu of them giving you Zendaya, they decided to give you Amanda Steinberg. Imagine that. To play the story of a West African? How does that line up? That's about like our back and forth with Drake and his trollers, right? You have Drake and his trollers saying, he's black. We're saying we define him biracial. recognizing and respecting that he passed through the womb of a white woman who's of Jewish faith, Judaism practices. But at the same time, you're saying, no, be dismissive of the white side of the family and only recognize that I came from a black man from Tennessee. Really? No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. You don't get the benefit of that. You don't get the benefit of that, whether it's Tennessee or Toronto. The reality is it's biracial. And so these narratives, these conversations are very important. And why is that important for the show? It's important for the show because within this show and separately, we're going to be dropping a reply response. It's a lyrical response. Dearest Drake, the man in black. And just to give you a hint of some of the lyrics that I think is important, he utilizes a responsive tweet post in which he drops a screenshot of Assata Shakur's poem, Affirmation, as if he wants to play a radical frontline. And then I say, let's rewind. And then I bring in Rhodes piano and a saxophone, and I go into Lyrical Legacy of Anthony Jones, and I say, quote, let's talk about history. Let's talk about roots. Never been on the ground in boots, dearest Drake. Posting up Assata Shakur poems like you out here in the trenches, like you classified black by the U.S. Census, like you understand boys in the hood or under Rockefeller sentences. And I'll leave it at that. And I want you to be able to sit back and enjoy Lyrical Legacy. That's what I want you to enjoy. Because all of that is important to why the documentaries of Wrong Ball and Lyrical Legacy, The Life of Anthony Jones, aka Wolf, is important. We're now also IMDb up there. So they approved our synopsis and our title. So that lets you know we're close. But the same thing happened when we did Allen Iverson. And then Shaquille O'Neal and them then popped up claiming, they're going to do one of their own. Ours had been out there now for almost a year and a half, production work, everything done. And so I'm going to say this as respectfully as we can, understanding all the consequences. If anyone thinks to do that now, it's going to be problematic. Pause. And I'm going to repeat it for full understanding. We're not going to put in the time, money, and resources, and then someone thinks that y'all can come in and say y'all going to take it over. It's ours. But that was exactly what they did. Corporate sanitizing. Think they had the big wigs. We're still within our statute of limitation, by the way. And so they came in thinking, well, if we give her a little bit of what she's trying to do, then she'll be okay with it. No. Nope. And the one thing y'all cannot do with Lyrical Legacy, The Life of Anthony Jones, we have his writings too. So, if y'all want to go ahead and write something, the likes of a 50 Cent or someone else, and think y'all can hijack this project, try it. Trust the process. We are. But what we're not going to have is someone, even if it's the likes of a Shaquille O'Neal, a Stephon Curry, an Amazon, Jeff Bezos, you guys, or 1-9, you did what y'all were going to do. But we wrote that script. You all borrowed from the script with no credit at all? Or did you give credit? Because the direction in which you all were going were never on the wise of what we were doing. But I get it because there was an interview with Players Tribute that Allen Iverson did in which he throws out, I know other people are working on the same project. I don't have a problem doing interviews. I'm not afraid to interview. I could give you an interview. I'm not going to do something cookie cutter. In other words, what he was saying to us indirectly was, listen, Lisa, I know you got this out here, but let me try and do something on my own. And I won't cookie cut, because that was the word we use. We're not doing a cookie cutter. Raw, real, and relevant. They borrowed those words too. Right, 1-9. Media. You from DC, so stop all of this, New York. Okay. We know what we know, college boy. So that being said, we're not going to be bullied by anyone. Our work is still in effect. And we're glad that Allen Iverson was able to release Iverson with a 3, because he can't do anything else now. You either suit up and listen for what we're doing and participate, or we do what we're doing without you. What would Ra have wanted you to do? What would Ra have wanted you to do? I think Ra would have wanted you to rock with Wolf Camp, right? Right. Y'all don't get to be out here living the benefits of Anthony Jones and then name dropping in speeches and then clap, 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 and that's the end of that. No, that's not how that's going to work. No, you didn't get to acquire street currency or for the necks, literally and figuratively speaking, of the Anthony Wolf Jones. Y'all called him Wolf. She calls him Wolfgang because she's his Wolfgang. Okay, so y'all don't get to that life benefit. So you gave America what they wanted. You have a great, in your mind, a great memoir, and you had your documentary. But that's his story, which is yours. Ours is history, the capital H-I-S, lowercase T-O-R-Y. Rumball, the Allen Iverson Way is still coming. And Lyrical Legacy, the life of Anthony Jones, a.k.a. Wolf, is coming too. Listen carefully. We're dropping 2 samples, treatments. We also are going to do something different. So let me give you some of our treatment. I'm going to do that. Our shows are live, raw, real, and relevant. So, let me give you some of that. Let me give you that. Okay. Quote unquote, when an executive architect of a global music empire is systematically erased from its history, his forced exile into the streets triggers a chain of events leading to a fatal ambush. Lyrical Legacy is an investigative chronological journey that deconstructs a multi-decade corporate cover-up, exposing the dark intersection of institutional erasure, media myth-making, and a compromised justice system. And I think that's enough for now. A couple of people out here talking about they got Act 1, 2, and 3. Well, so do we. What is really the history, respectfully, of Bad Boy Records, Combs Global, and Combs Enterprise? Our goal is to permanently restore Anthony Jones and the Bronx legends as the true foundational architects of that enterprise. And we know what we know. And we have what we need. Right? So, that being said, stay tuned and listen in. We're responding to Drake and Darius Drake, Men in Black. And then we're going to drop another teaser. Okay? Rumball, the Allen Iverson Way, and Lyrical Legacy, the life of Anthony Jones, a.k.a. Wolf, coming soon.
You think you can force an editorial shift with an Instagram screenshot? Let's look at the data, Aubrey. You got your digital army trolling my timeline, trying to bully a Bronx journalist into changing the headline. But I don't report on optics or stage curtains, I report on the design. You want to drop a screenshot of Assata Shakur's affirmation to play the radical frontline? Let's rewind. Lyrical Legacy of Anthony Jones. Let's talk about history. Let's talk about roots. Never been on the ground in boots. Dearest Drake. Posting up Assata Shakur poems like you're out here in the trenches, like you classified black by the U.S. Census, like you understand boys in the hood or under Rockefeller's sentences. But you were safe in Forest Hill, not Supreme Queen scripts in your hand, a child actor playing parts while we survived the land. You're just gauging data while I cover the field of rim. Drake in black, no room for pretend, not a color culture classification. Black is made from within, but as a journalist, my record isn't something you box in. Black is not a reservation you check in. You black, then what are we? Two black parents, you can't rewrite history. Trying to erase the spectrum just to manage the optics. Drake, black is more than a prop. You can pull the Asada shit or activist text from the crate, but you can't rewrite the roots to manipulate the debate. Looking at the history, I'm showing the whole design. You and your trollers trying to police how I'm writing headlines. 3/5 of a man for taxation. 1857 Dred Scott emancipation. Aubrey, from the grassy to the billboard, you've been sheltered, mother of baked goods and wine. Celebration of our father, the king, the divine. While the only culture you claim had to bleed on the vine. Biracial, you still fine. J. Cole and Barack Obama too. Kendrick Lamar will no longer acknowledge you. What's your excuse? Like the zebra in the African zoo, you can't hide, that's who inside you. Name Tiger Woods, separation of a narrative of the hood. If you black, then what are we? Two black parents that can't rewrite history. Trying to erase the spectrum just to manage the optics. Drake, black is more than a prop. Definition of a man who claims black is getting black women and getting the back. You want a single story, put it clean on the page. Black can't be performed on a stage. Heritage is more than a hairy face. They can't trying to filter what the headlines state. Sending proxy trollers to censor how I classify you by Drake. But sending revolutionary poems by Asada Shakur won't erase the gray zone. You can't dictate the culture from a text on a Canadian iPhone. I report the lyrical legacy. You trying to rewrite truth. I'm locked into the facts while you're hiding in the booth. Best writer in the world, Bronx girl Lisa, 11J Production.